Hey guys, so I got about 30 minutes before I clock in, but I wanted to come on here and talk about this one major issue, this one major obstacle that AEW was finally able to take care of. And that is the fact that they were finally able to secure a T rating, a teen T rating for the upcoming game, the first console PC game outside of the mobile stuff, AEW Fight Forever. Now, originally, this game was scheduled apparently to come out in 2022 of last year, basically the fall. But because of this obstacle and maybe a few other issues, it was pushed back to maybe even Christmas 2022 and then even up to this year. And again, this obstacle that they had to overcome, the ESRB, was a major sticking point because the ESRB was getting ready to give it an M rating based on its tone. You know, the violence, the blood, the suggestive content, the alcohol consumption. Well, I wouldn't say consumption, but illusion and everything. They were ready to give it an M rating. Now, here's the thing. It's not the first time wrestling games have gotten M ratings. We know that when Acclaim did the two ECW games that they did, they basically gave those M ratings because of the violence in them, the tone and the match types that were added in those games when they came out. We know that basically warranted an M rating at the time. Nowadays, like Fight Forever, it probably warrant more of a T rating, that's it. But things were different back then. But the point is, it's not the first time. Even the backyard wrestling games that they had were given M ratings because of the violence and everything that was within them. And you can't tell me that the upcoming games, some of the upcoming wrestling games that may debut this year, like the ultra-violent one they're talking about, won't be given like an M rating or something. You can't tell me that because it will. But yeah, AEW was basically in that situation. They were basically in that, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? Hold on. That uncertainty of whether or not they'd be able to get this game out to the public for everybody to try, because they know a T rating is more likely to get the game out and about to just about everybody that might want to try it out. Well, they know an M rating, even though it might sell very successfully, it may not, I guess you could say warrant the financial success they would hope for the game if they didn't get a T rating. So yeah, they ended up getting that rating finally. They ended up, overcoming that obstacle and getting the T rating that they've been so sought after. But you might ask yourself, again, why was the ESRB so clingy to wanting to give it an M rating instead of a T? Why were they so against it? Well, like I said, because it's a lot more violent than, let's say, your average WWE game. Yes, the WWE game has T ratings on it. There's no doubt. They have a T for teen rating on it. And yes, they have blood and everything. They have chair shots to the head in these games and stuff like that. We got the war games aspect and all that showing up in the game. We have, the use of flaming tables and all those kind of things, right? And you would think, well, wouldn't that warrant a bit of an M rating? Kind of, but not really. Not really. I think what was causing the ESRB to be reluctant about going the T-rated route, or the T-rating route, is because of the fact that the excessiveness of the blood. Because apparently, as put in the description, the blood stains the mat. You don't see that, very often, if at all, anymore in the games of WWE. Yes, the characters get busted open, but you don't see it, resonate on the mat. You don't see the blood dripping on the mat. And the other thing, too, is that the women characters, the women wrestlers in the WWE games, they may get hit with chairs and potentially on the verge of being busted open, but they don't. They're not. But yet with the AEW game, that's going to happen. And I think that, like I said, was the other issue too. The fact that the women in the game were going to get busted open, and that may have been an issue as well that kind of made the obstacle a lot, harder at times to overcome, which they eventually, like I said, did. They eventually did overcome it, but it was a major situation, to get through. And they obviously felt like, wait a minute, have you not seen our product? Have you not seen, what we do here and stuff? Like, what's the big issue? And I'm certain that Kenny Omega and all of them probably showed that, hey, the women do bleed in these matches. We do allow them to, to blade or whatever. We do allow them to get cut open the hard way if necessary and everything. So that shouldn't be a sticking point. But I think it was. I think it was until they were finally able to get around it. Now, whether or not that means they had to sacrifice something, like maybe, yeah, the women will be involved in these kind of matches, but when you hit them, you hit them hard enough to where you think they would bleed like originally advertised, and they don't, then you'll probably notice that was the sacrifice that AEW needed to make. That, yeah, you could put Britt Baker in a match with Jade Cargill and all that, and get to a point where you think Britt's going to bleed, just like she did in that St. Patrick's Day match with Thunder Rosa. But then when you notice, hey, they ain't bleeding, that's when you'll probably get the idea of, oh, that's the thing they needed to sacrifice to get a T rating. Because if you're going to get something that if you're going to plan to get something that you're solely after, you are very determined to get, because it's going to help your product sell more so than the other option, you're going to have to make some sacrifices and changes. And I would not be surprised if that's one of the major changes. And I know it sucks. Because we see the women, when they get a chance to go all out, we see the women, dump blood. I'm not trying to be mean or offensive in saying this, dump buckets of blood when they're in matches. I mean, we saw that with freaking Ruby Soho recently on Rampage. So to me, it's like, I look at the fact that if there's one thing that will probably be sacrificed, or they had to sacrifice, hopefully not, is unlike the male wrestlers in the game, that will probably be allowed to bleed and all that all over the place, this gush. I've got a feeling that the thing they may have had to change and sacrifice to get this T rating, because you can't get something without, giving something, is the women, being able to do the same. Even though it was advertised, pretty much, I've got a feeling that's something they had to change. Now, if that's not it that they changed, what could it have been? Was it the intergender perspective? We don't know. If that was it, then it's like, why even advertise it if you're going to have to take it out, because that's the only way they're going to give you a T rating. It doesn't make sense, for them to do that. It doesn't make sense for them to do that, but I've got a feeling more than anything, now, and again, don't quote me on this, because it's just my speculation and theory, that I think what they had to do was sacrifice the women being allowed to bleed in the game outside of the men to get that T rating. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Hopefully they kept that in, because that was one of the selling points for the game when it was announced and the footage was starting to be shown. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, obviously something had to happen for them to get the T ratings, after so long. Even with the description and synopsis for the game that was given. So, yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. Also, I do want to point out that apparently if things do stay the course, history will be made. I think it will be for the first time in like almost 20 plus years. Yeah, I think around 20 plus years. I think maybe 22, 23 years. But for the first time in over 20 years, as far as I know, you will get a game, basically, where one wrestler who's currently working for another promotion will also show up in the game for the promotion he used to work for, and that person is Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes, believe it or not, is going to have a huge year ahead of him, not just with the chance to be the face of WWE and the champion, but video game wise, he's going to be the first wrestler in a long time, in almost 2 decades, as far as I know, to appear in 2 separate video games based on two separate promotions, and in this case, rival promotions, that being AEW and WWE. So that's something else to look forward to when this game gets released. More than likely around the same time WWE 2K23 does, but we'll see. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys, overall on AEW Fight Forever finally getting its T rating. What do you think they had to sacrifice, if anything at all, hopefully nothing, to get it? And what are your thoughts on Cody being, for the first time in almost 2 decades, being the only wrestler that we know of to appear in 2 games being released around the same time for 2 of the top promotions in the country? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. You will get an audio podcast version of this later at BW Roses Discussions and all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. But guys, until then, also check out the Teespring store. But until then, guys, I will talk to you all later. Peace out. God bless. Take care.